Deebo Samuel has requested a trade. Now that we are officially in NFL draft week, is there an opportunity for the 49ers to use this to their advantage? Can the 49ers be better without Deebo Samuel? We've got a mock draft for the 49ers, all 7 rounds. We will examine that possibility right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making Locked On 49ers your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Croc, can the 49ers be better off without Deebo Samuel? Is that even possible? I think we have to examine what that would look like, what that would take. I've got a mock draft with some things and a potential projected trade for Deebo Samuel, what the 49ers could do and maneuver in the draft to maximize their talent and the impact that they can get on the roster, even if Deebo Samuel is not around. I think plan A clearly is for Deebo Samuel to be a member of the San Francisco 49ers, which is why, to me, and I got a lot of pushback, a lot of angry Jets fans. In fact, some former Jets players. You remember Lege Oduzable?
He was on the Jets when I was there.
Yeah, okay. So he pushed back. He was mad at me today. We had a little back and forth on.
He was mad at me too a little bit. Was he? Okay. But he didn't try to. Maybe I was like, okay, Croc was with the Jets. Like maybe he didn't want to. But he was pushing back and kind of basically saying like, dude, whatever you're talking about, that's not going to happen. And we'll discuss that as well.
You know, that is a weird thing. So I've got a projected trade to the New York Jets, and there was a report out there that the Jets have been willing to give up their 10th pick in the draft for Deebo Samuel. And there was the same story out there that the Jets were willing to give up their 10th pick in the draft for DK Metcalf, and they had actually offered it to Seattle. Seattle said no. So obviously the Jets had come up and, they missed out on some other players. They've called about a lot of wide receivers. The Jets haven't added one yet. So they've obviously got to come up with whatever their offers have been, even though those were pretty good offers before, but they missed out on Hill, right?
Tony Pauline, who reported that, I do a podcast with him once a week on the New York Giants stuff on their YouTube and all that. I'm going to ask him about that tomorrow. We record tomorrow morning. I'm going to ask him about what exactly it is that he's hearing. But I will say this, since I've been doing a podcast with him for the last couple months now, Tony Pauline is not one to talk out of his ass. Like he's kind of this older, kind of comes off a little grumpy. Kind of like even if you look at it,
but he's been doing this forever. He's got connections. He knows people for sure. And who knows?
Since 1997. Since 1997.
And a lot of people who are connected, that doesn't mean the person you're getting information from knows exactly what's going on. And sometimes you have really great information. Sometimes it's a hearsay thing. Sometimes like, hey, I heard this from this guy, and this guy's usually really good. And so, there's a little game of telephone going on. But I don't believe those insiders necessarily, guys like Tony Pauline, are lying. You just have to understand that they have sources that they're probably not talking to the exact person who's in charge. So there's one level of, and you never know exactly what teams are able to do. But here's the pushback I got, because essentially I was responding to that report about the Niners, or that the Jets were, willing to maybe give up pick 10 for Deebo Samuel. And my response to that was, okay, that's cool, but I'm asking for 38 too. Like 10 is even not enough by itself. And we've talked about this. I'm not doing the DeForest Buckner thing where you get one draft pick and you spend it on a wide receiver. That is asinine. The 49ers should not go down that path. And there could be a good receiver for the 49ers at number 10, but you're going to draft Jameson Williams, a guy coming off a torn ACL, and just try to do it. You're like, okay, we're good. We just replaced Deebo Samuel, and if it was that easy, why wouldn't the Jets just hold on to 10 and draft the wide receiver on the rookie contract right there? Why would they even be going after Deebo Samuel? So anyway, and Duzable and a whole bunch of Jets fans were Jets fans are an interesting breed, by the way. They came at me and they're like, that is insane. You were never going to get over on the fleece god Joe Douglas with a trade like that. And I'm like, dude, I like a lot of what Joe Douglas has done the last couple of years since he's taken over for the New York Jets. But I mean, they're talking about Joe Douglas like he's this this god of like he's a first ballot Hall of Fame GM. He's the GM of a team that's had 6 combined wins over the last 2 years, and they're talking about him
Right.
like he's the greatest GM of all time. It reminds me of when 49ers fans loved Trent Baalke and they were calling him the draft ninja, right? Do you remember that? And it's like fans like, I like what Joe Douglas is doing, but you got to slow your roll a little bit. But anyway, my overall point with all of it is that I don't care if the Jets are likely to do it. I don't care if what the asking price is so high that Joe Douglas would immediately slam the phone on John Lynch. That is, in fact, the point. It would have to be such an overpay. You would have to be getting so much for Deebo Samuel that you would take it if he was asking for a trade or not. Like, that's the point of the asking price. It's not the point of, let's see if we can get the Jets to take this deal. It's that you have to give the 49ers so much for Deebo Samuel that they, in these circumstances, cannot turn it down. And that is the point of what the asking price should be for Deebo Samuel this week.
And I have been conversing with several New York Jets fans in the spaces. And I mean, there were up to 400 people in those things. And I'm talking about the situation with Deebo Samuel, what he means to the 49ers. And I'm listening to a lot of them. And here is a lot of their perspectives. It is that whatever you get Deebo, even if it's pick 10, even if it's pick 10 and 38, because they don't have a superstar, first and foremost. And now there are some people that are worried about, well, once you trade for him, you have to pay him. And they're like, well, you're not paying anyone else. So you have no other superstars on your roster. You're not paying anyone else. And then, well, what about these draft? And they're like, well, if you draft a guy at 10 and 38, like, who are those guys? And are they going to be Deebo Samuel, or at least what you know of Deebo Samuel and what he means to an offense? Like, he's special. He's going to help your young quarterback out, Zach Wilson, as he's trying to turn that page. There's not as much pushback in those conversations as there are probably with your situation, having the 49ers get picked 10 and 38. But one other aspect to this is, I think they're calling Joe Douglas the fleece god, or whatever the hell they're calling him, because he was able to get 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. All right. Now, you trade Jamal Adams away.
Joe Douglas,
really, if you trade pick 10,
the market. That's you're
right.
Like, look, 2 first-rounders. That's what it costs. They got paid to you now, and one of those would be coming to the 49ers in that case, because that's Seattle's pick at number 10, right?
Yeah, yes, right. And if you do that, you turned Jamal Adams into Deebo Samuel and Vera Tucker, the guard that they drafted number like 17 or 18 overall last season. So you done well with it. Like, and here's the other part. I keep saying, and they have a ton of draft capital remaining. So it's like they just want to hoard all these picks just to have a bunch of picks, just to say that they drafted this guy and that guy. No, take Deebo Samuel and have him be, a combination of picks between 10 and 38. But you still have number 4 overall. You'll still have pick 35. You'll still have several picks throughout the rest of the draft. You still have your 3rd round. You still have multiple 4ths. Like, you have a ton of picks. You literally aren't missing anything, but you gain a Deebo Samuel. Like, you will be fine. There is a scenario, and we heard Joe Douglas, the fleece god. All right, we heard Joe Douglas and what he said at his podium during, listen, we're not going to talk Deebo Samuel, but if there's an opportunity that presents itself, we will be aggressive in pursuing that guy. And they were semi-aggressive with pursuing Tyreek Hill. You missed out on him. If you still want to improve that position and you have to be a little bit more aggressive and you have tons of draft capital, you get aggressive with getting Deebo Samuel.
And my thing, I would even take it a step further, and it's not even trying to talk the Jets or Jets fans into thinking what a good deal is for Deebo Samuel, because I don't care. That's the price. Pay it or don't. You don't pay the price, Deebo stays in the 49ers. That's plan A anyway. That's what you got to buy him from us. We're not selling Deebo Samuel. You got to buy him from us. That should be the mindset for John Lynch going into this thing. So
I think that is the mindset. Right. They do not. The 49ers, I don't want pick 10. I don't want pick 38. I don't want any of those picks. I want Deebo Samuel. Now, this is Eric Crocker talking, not John Lynch, not Brian Peacock. This is Eric Crocker talking. I want Deebo Samuel. I don't want those picks. I don't even know what those picks are going to be. And obviously, we know what they're going to be in this exercise here. And I lean on what Peacock says. He's been very good with his shadow drafts. But I don't want I want Deebo Samuel. But if I 100% absolutely can't, and somebody's willing to give me something to move off of him, okay, then we can have that conversation. But until then, hey, here's my asking price. If you want this, it's going to cost you a lot because he can stay a 49er. He can't hold out. It's going to cost him too much money. Maybe he does a little, Jalen Ramsey, my back hurt type thing. I don't know. Until you're ultimately like, all right, let's just get rid of him. But nah, man. It's going to take a good amount. And I think 10 and 38, that's pretty reasonable, especially with the draft capital they have.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you don't want to pay it, then that's cool too. Because the 49ers.
Just keep your sorry-ass receivers in.
Yeah, exactly. Keep being 4 and 13. It's working out great for you so far. All right. So next, we're going to get into my mock draft. What could that look like if the 49ers actually did trade Deebo Samuel? And I don't want to tear Deebo down at all, but I want to talk a little bit about his value. And if maybe this is aligning for the 49ers in the best possible scenario that is coming up next. But I want to tell the folks out there about Athletic Greens. I was blown away by how much better I felt when I started taking Athletic Greens every single day. I was a little skeptical. They sent me this Athletic Greens. I wanted to try this stuff out. And I'm kind of a caffeine addict. I love drinking coffee every day. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really do much anymore. I just like the taste. And I've gotten into a routine now where I bought some decaf beans because I still love the ritual. I still love drinking coffee, but I feel better without the caffeine and just sipping on a little bit of decaf black coffee in the mornings, but drinking the AG1 from Athletic Greens because the AG1 is what's giving me the actual boost of energy, making me feel good in the mornings. It's super simple. 1 scoop in water, you drink it in the morning. It could not be easier. And you are getting all the vitamins and minerals, 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. And I've been blown away by how much better I feel. And it actually costs less than going and getting a cup of coffee every morning for that one delicious scoop of AG1 and all those vitamins and everything clearly my body had been craving and needing every morning. And I was not giving it to my body. So make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. For the first time ever, Locked On is hosting live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft from our studios in Dallas with pick-by-pick analysis from our local team experts and draft gurus. You know who those are. Eric Crocker. I will be involved as well, a host of others here from the Locked On Podcast Network, doing it up this year for the 2022 NFL Draft. It all starts real time Thursday, April 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern, available on Locked On NFL on YouTube and on the Odyssey app. That's awesome, Croc. When do you head out to Dallas for that?
I leave Wednesday morning. I fly in, and it's only a 45-minute flight from Little Rock, Arkansas to Dallas, Texas. So
you just shoot right on over there then. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. That is fantastic.
Thought about driving, but I was like,
So before I get into this mock draft, I want to talk a little bit about something. And this isn't to tear down the value of Deebo Samuel, but I just want to, I wonder if potentially, if things go correctly for the 49ers, let's say John Lynch is willing to, and I can't wait to hear later Monday what he says in his press conference. I kind of have a feeling what he's going to say. We love Deebo Samuel. We have no intentions of trading him. We want to sign him to the 49ers. We want him to be here for a very long time, right? That's what he's going to say. But I wonder if he'll give us a little extra indication of how he's feeling with this whole Deebo Samuel thing. I have a feeling he doesn't give a crap about what's going on social media and some of these other things. And I'm it's funny because Debo's got a nickname Deebo for a reason. He's a competitive guy, and that might be driving some of these things. But John Lynch is a pretty competitive guy too. So I wonder if there's some of that where John Lynch is like, dude, I've got the CBA behind me. You're not going to dictate to me what's going on. So I wonder how much of that there is going on behind the scenes. And I have no doubt the 49ers love Deebo Samuel. That's why this whole thing is so weird. But Croc, do you remember what the talking points were not even a calendar year ago, less than that, 9-10 months ago, July, training camp? Everyone was like, oh, can't wait. Wide receiver 1, Brandon Aiyuk, going into year 2, right? And then it's like, and we also have Deebo. That's what a lot of 49ers fans were saying.
Right.
They were treating Deebo like he was wide receiver 2 and maybe a distant wide receiver 2 and maybe wide receiver 3 when you consider George Kittle and Brandon Aiyuk, right? And
Not just that. I had heard reports. I had got some messages from some pretty reliable sources, like people that are pretty. I hate saying that the sources thing because I don't want to come off as but
was
from
Tony
some
Pauline one of them?
Tony Pauline was not one of them, but just someone who just feeds me some information that's going on in there. And there was these reports that potentially they weren't planning on signing him come the end of the year. Now again, this is before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
But there were those thoughts, questions about, just different things and staying healthy and things like that. And they were going to kind of make him play everything out and just see how it went. So maybe this is ahead of the timetable that they originally had set for him. And we always knew it would be kind of weird because at some point you got Brandon Aiyuk. And if he has a season I think most people thought he would, then you're going to get in a situation where, oh man, you might have to pay both guys. But obviously the situation happened with Aiyuk. Debo got really close with Coach Shanahan. He had an amazing season. And then now people are viewing Aiyuk as just this, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. No, we need somebody to replace Debo. And it's like, well, we all thought or know how talented Aiyuk is when he's on. He just needs the rock and the targets.
Aiyuk was a higher drafted guy. He's got the workout numbers. He's got athleticism. There was a reason they traded up to get Brandon Aiyuk. And I'm not going to sit here and say I think Brandon Aiyuk's going to have the same year or same impact Deebo Samuel did. Deebo was crazy last year. And look, how boring would 49ers games have been all season long if Deebo wasn't a member of the Niners?
Well, they'd be even not very good.
Not very good. Yeah, so Deebo has a huge point about how valuable. He was the most valuable player on the 49ers last year.
Easily.
Now, but when you consider, look, and he's only 2 years younger than Tyreek Hill. When you consider the toll that he's already taken on his body, if you consider what he would do as a wide back for the 49ers, no matter how much you pay him, whatever, no matter what team he's on, he's going to go through some of that. He's going to take his hits, and he's physical. Even if you didn't hand him the ball one time as a running back, he's physical. He takes hits, and he's already had some injuries, nothing crazy major or anything like that. And those injuries go back to college too. So this isn't like a new thing he only had injuries for 1 year in the NFL. So could it be that the 49ers have an opportunity here to deal Deebo away with a lot of leverage on their side, knowing that they don't have to trade him, knowing that a team has to come and overpay for him, and then in the end look back and say, man, we got a lot of picks. We nailed those picks, which is key, and now we're better off for it. Like similar to what I would say happened with the Minnesota Vikings, trading away Stephon Diggs, and then all of a sudden, boom, you hit on a better, younger player in Justin Jefferson. The Vikings feel great about that trade, right? But they got worse, or there's a potential for them to get a lot worse right away, but they hit on the receiver and they hit on the player. So that's all part of it. Could it be that the 49ers end up better because they trade away Deebo Samuel? It's hard to imagine, but it would have to be a huge trade that they got for Deebo, and they would have to nail the picks. So
it's hard to imagine that because when you have a player that meant so much to the offense, had almost 1,800 yards in the regular season. Obviously, we saw what he did in the postseason. And then when asked to return a kickoff against Green Bay in the freezing cold, he does it. When and returns it to almost midfield. Like when asked to be a running back, he did. I mean, he just meant so much to every inch of that offense. It's hard to think that you're better off without him in any scenario. But you can, at the very least, build some optimism that, you know what, you do lose Deebo Samuel, but look what we did here and in this mock. And I do think we are heading in the direction of potentially being better.
I'm going to bring my mock draft I did onto the screen here, Croc, because this is important.
No, don't bring it onto the screen. I think we got to talk through all of them and then bring it on, because we don't want people to see it, then they don't watch the rest of the show.
No, you're right. Okay. But and this is a wild trade scenario. I went trade crazy, but this is the idea of trading Deebo. It's not about you trade Deebo for one high pick, draft a wide receiver with that one pick. You got to maneuver around. You got to utilize the value that Deebo gave you to make your team better. That's the idea right now. Not to just okay, we got value for Debo, we got picks. How do you get better post Debo? That's what we're trying to do.
And Peacock, not just that. This is, at first, I think when people see it, it's like, oh man, a lot of moving around. This is very realistic. I mean, we just saw the 49ers do. They traded DeForest Buckner for pick 13. They traded down from pick 13, added another pick, and picked at 14. And then when they were picking at the end of the first round, they traded back up to get Brandon Aiyuk. We have seen them do this. So it's going to look crazy. Oh, all these trades. That's what John Lynch has done. So I think this is more realistic than most people would think.
The unrealistic part of this is there's not enough trades. John Lynch traded all of his draft picks in 2020, every single one of them, right? And there's only 3 trades here in this mock draft. But it starts with Deebo Samuel. And again, I didn't add any more to it, but I mean, if I'm John Lynch right now and Joe Douglas called me and asked, I would say I need 10, I need 35, and I need next year's 2. And he'd say, that's ridiculous. And I'd say, that's the price. Sorry, dude, call me back. So he calls back and he says, okay, how about 10 and 69? I say, nope, 10, 35, next year's 2. And he's like, okay, how about 10 and 38? And I would say, nope, I need 10, 38 next year's 2. And he'd say, okay. And so anyway, I think the point is I'd be trying to get not only 10 and 38, but maybe a third rounder next year, see what we could get there. But for this trade, I put 10 and 38. I don't know if Joe Douglas would be willing to, but that's the price. And I don't care. Again, fine. Okay. We have Debo. So we either have Debo or we have to pick 10 and 38 at least. I would not take less than 10 and 38 from the New York Jets. And that's where we're at here. So that was the trade I projected here with the New York Jets. Nothing else extra. Just pick 10 and 38. First round pick number 10. That is the 4th, 5th, 6th pick in round 2 at pick 38 for Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel now a member of the Jets. They can sign him. And what do the 49ers do from there? The key for me is not only do you get a top 10 pick and a pick that's high in the second round, you're trying to add even more from that. So I'm taking offers on pick 10 and trying to move down all day long. Now, look, if the right prospect is there at pick 10, you could stick and stay and pick a 10, and that'd be fine too. But I'm not sitting there trying to draft Garrett Wilson at 10. I'm not trying to draft Jameson Williams at 10. I'm not trying to draft Drake London at 10 and just replace Debo with a wide receiver at 10. I'm trying to get better, not only wide receiver, but in a lot of places. So that's one of the keys here for me.
And this is a draft where I don't like picking at 10 overall, especially with some of the 49ers. You see the way the roster is constructed. Maybe there's a corner there, Sauce Gardner, or maybe Derek Stingley Jr., but you look at the 49ers cornerbacks right now, and it's like, you just signed Ward. You got Mosley. I think he's a starter. You got Ambry Thomas. I think you're good. Obviously, Stingley's a better prospect than any of those guys. But I think you're comfortable with your cornerbacks right now. So I don't think you make a move on that. So it's like, well, offensive line, maybe. I mean, if like a Ekwonu just drops to you and maybe I could put you at guard, but I don't really like picking at 10. And one last thing on this, last year we saw the San Francisco 49ers. What'd they do? They traded up from 12 to number 3 overall with the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins moved back to 12. Then what they do? Trade back up to pick, 6 or 7?
To pick 6 with the Eagles.
Yeah, pick 6. And then did some. So we've seen teams where, we make one move, but we're not done. In Philadelphia and Dolphins, they've been prone to do this as well.
And the Eagles went from 6 to 12, then went from 12 back up to 10 to jump ahead of the Giants to draft Smith.
Yeah.
And then the Giants wanted Smith, so they ended up moving down. They got Kadarius Toney, who, by the way, is now on the trading block somehow, which is one of the later stories. Maybe the 49ers could work in there, but I mean, I wouldn't be paying a lot for Kadarius Toney if they're trying to get off of him already, because I'd be wondering what the hell's going on. But he could be nice in Kyle Shanahan's offense too. Not gonna lie there, Kadarius Toney. That is a weird one. So next, Niners picking at 10 now in the draft. Let's go to my 7-round 49ers mock draft after I let the folks know about Built Bar. Hey, Croc, when the network asked you what you wanted to stock in your hotel room in Dallas, what'd you tell them?
Did you see that email?
No, I didn't. But
I told them, I said, Built Bar Puffs, please. And water. I said, just give me water and Built Bar Puffs.
Croc's on this diet where he's got to have enough protein, he's got to have low sugar, and he's got to drink a gallon of water per day. There's no water that I know of in Built Bars, but you know what they are? Low in sugar, low in calorie, and high in protein. And by the way, back in stock at Built.com, mint Built Bar Puffs. So you got the mint puffs, you got the blueberry muffin, you got my favorite, which is peanut butter, tons of great flavors, new ones all the time at Built.com. built.com. And yeah, only 130 calories in most Built bars, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Feel satisfied. They taste delicious. You feel like you actually got a treat, but you can feel good about yourself knowing that you didn't reach for that candy bar. You didn't reach for that bag of chips. You got low calorie, high protein snack, and it is all wrapped up in 100% real and delicious chocolate. So all you got to do is go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Croc. What do you think I did with pick number 10? I didn't sit at pick number 10. I took offers. And this is what was tough. Now, the 49ers have set a path in free agency. If the 49ers didn't set that path in free agency, I might have stuck at 10 and drafted Derek Stingley, who was on the clock or on the board at 10. And that's what I'm talking about. So pick 10, there might be a really good player. Maybe it's not even wide receiver the Niners would want to go there to immediately replace Debo. Maybe it's a pass rusher. What if someone like Kayvon Thibodeau falls? What if Derek Stingley or Sauce Gardner is there? I could see the 49ers with a need at strong safety. Maybe they love Kyle Hamilton, and maybe he could be the pick. But what I did is I took some phone calls, and it was the Eagles that wanted to move up. They wanted to go get Derek Stingley at pick 10, which I think is a good move. They're in the need for cornerbacks. The Baltimore Ravens as well. They love themselves some man-to-man. I could see them being definitely a team that would want Derek Stingley, and Derek Stingley shouldn't fall any further than that. But that's why I took that deal, went down to pick 15 with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then at pick 15, the selection was Jermaine.
Did you say that you also received pick 51?
The full deal was, yeah. So their second round pick 51. So and I also sent a 6th rounder along with it. So it was pick 10 and number 220 overall, 49ers first rounder and 6th rounder for the Eagles first and second rounder. It was number 15 and 51 overall. And that pick 51 is going to be very important a little bit later. And again, this is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make the 49ers better after trading Deebo Samuel, not just trying to get some fast wide receiver to replace Deebo Samuel and crossing your fingers that he becomes a stud.
Yeah, and Philadelphia also has another first-round pick. So them moving up and losing a second, they're like, dude, we still have plenty of picks.
Right. They got pick 18 that they know they can still draft a wide receiver, draft one of their other needs, whatever that is. And, the Eagles are a team that loves to move around. And then at pick 15, I went with Florida State edge rusher Jermaine Johnson.
Love it.
And this is something that would be a John Lynch special, right? Drafting an edge player, drafting a defensive lineman. I know they got a pretty full house of defensive linemen, but none of them are signed past this year. I think Jermaine Johnson should go in this area. I've seen him almost go. I've seen his stock go a little bit too high. This guy was like a 3rd-round player, and all of a sudden he goes to the Senior Bowl. Was really good at the Senior Bowl, had really good workouts. Is he a top 10 slam dunk? Because some people said he was. But, I mean, I think this classic could go in any order. I don't know if Jermaine Johnson's going to be there at 15. He was in this mock draft. I think the teens is the right spot for Jermaine Johnson. I'm not buying that he's a slam dunk top 10 guy. And there's some people that believe he's maybe a fringe first rounder. I think this is a good spot for him, middle of round 1. And that's who I went with for the 49ers.
Brian Burns was a terrific edge rusher coming out of that 2019 class.
Brian Burns, I loved him. I was so much higher on Brian Burns than I am Jermaine Johnson right now. And Burns went like 17.
Yeah, right. So it's definitely possible. I mean, Cleveland Farrell went before guys like Josh Allen.
There is a little stiffness to Jermaine Johnson. And one stat I saw that worried me a little bit is how many seconds it took to get pressure. And only 3%, by far the lowest of the top edge rushers, only 3% of Jermaine Johnson's pressures happen in 2.5 seconds or less in college. And almost all of his pressures came later than 2.5 seconds to the 3.5 second mark. And it was by a lot. For example, 47% of Aiden Hutchinson's pressures came in 2.5 seconds or less. So,
and Jermaine Johnson is more athletic, but
Jermaine Johnson's more bursty in a straight line, less flexibility, less bend. He's really good edge setter, good run stopper, and he's athletic, but he's not a turn around the corner edge bender. That's not what he is. And that is a reason why he would be there at 15 and not be at 10.
I watched him go through the hoops though, and he looked the best at the Senior Bowl going through those drills. I mean, he looked fluid. He was dropping his weight. It looked great. And my buddy who was next to me, big defensive line guy, he trains defensive linemen up in Minnesota, and he was like, wow, this is the best defensive lineman here, easily. And I was with his guy, Boye Mafi, there as well.
Boy Mafe is another one that's gotten some serious helium. I wonder how high he's going to go. And I was thinking about, hey, maybe that's a pick at 38. Boy Mafe, you go wide receiver at 10. Boy Mafe at 38. That's definitely a possibility. But again, this is about getting better everywhere, not just adding a wide receiver after trading Deebo. But wide receiver is very important. So now sitting there with 3 second-round picks now, by the way, the 49ers have. Trading back to the Eagles got 51, got 38 from the Jets, and already had pick 61. So no way you're sitting back and just waiting for the board to fall at this point for the 49ers. You're going up. And what I ended up doing here is moving up. I used pick 38 from the Jets plus the 49ers comp third round pick number 105 to go up late round 1, pick number 27 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get in front of that second Packers pick, to get in front of both of those Kansas City picks because they might be taking a wide receiver. This is where I went wide receiver for the 49ers in Treylon Burks from Arkansas. And I know Treylon Burks hasn't had fantastic workouts. I still think he's a late round 1 guy. I don't think he's going to be one of the top 1 or 2 wide receivers that goes in this class. And there's one reason I think the Niners will love him. Couple of reasons. One reason why I'm not sure if he's going to be Shanahan's guy or not, but there's a lot of unfair, probably Deebo comps, especially if the 49ers draft Treylon Burks. He's not Deebo. He's very different. But one thing he would have in this scenario that Deebo does not have, and it's very topical, and that is the 5th-year option. That's why I'm trading into the first round to get that wide receiver. So you don't have to worry about this Deebo Samuel post-year 3 situation. You've got that 5-year, 5th-year option commitment for that prospect, and then you can talk contract after that. Treylon Burks never gets caught from behind. Didn't run a great 40 time Croc. But you know what I found out about Treylon Burks? And I know the 49ers lean heavy on the GPS numbers. He had a catch and run where he hit 22.6 miles per hour carrying the ball this year.
Was it against Alabama?
No, he had some awesome plays against Alabama. It was against like Georgia Southern. It was against, it was like a screen pass or a short
screen.
Pass.
It was like 90 yards or something like that.
He hit the Jets. He burst. So he's got this build-up speed. I don't know why it didn't translate to the 40. It's definitely with the stop-start stuff. He doesn't have a good vertical either. So it's definitely getting out of the breaks is where he lacks a little bit, and more on that in a second. But top speed, he's got it. And that 22.6 would be that's like Raheem Mostert territory. That would have been as fast as any ball carrier in the NFL last year, 22.6 mile per hour. And I know the 49ers look at those GPS numbers. So I think the 49ers would love that. His ball tracking, his size, all that stuff, great. Not a great 3-cone, not a great burst, short area quicks. That is what I'm a little bit worried about. And, with his route tree and stuff, and look, he lined up in the backfield. That's why he's going to get those Deebo comps. So part of me believes the 49ers would love Treylon Burks, and part of me thinks, maybe, because almost all the 49ers pass catchers have this crazy 3-cone time, and he definitely doesn't have that.
Yeah, he can improve in that area. I think he can improve as a route runner, but as someone who you talked about, the Deebo comps, he's also bigger than Deebo Samuel. He's a legit 6'2". He was listed at 6'3", 230. He measured in at 6'2", 225 pounds.
I think he's 6'2 and a half.
Yeah, so he's a real 6'2 and a half. Huge hands, and he uses those hands great. I mean, he plucks the ball out of the air. He is a terrific contested catch ball guy. You don't have to worry about that. 49ers finally have a guy who can win those jump balls vertically down the field. You talked about him not getting caught from behind. He will outrun the defense. He was outrunning SEC defenses, making terrific catches all over the field. Again, not as much of a precise route runner, but it doesn't matter because when you have the body that he has, being that type of big guy, positioning is more important. So can you just get in front of a guy, catch a ball, and do his thing? And I think he does. And I think he's probably a little bit more comparable to A.J. Brown, even though I think Deebo and A.J. are similar. But I think Deebo's ability to truly accelerate right now is kind of what the difference is. But he's more A.J. Brown, and that's how you should view him. Like that's A.J. Brown.
I like that better. I think it's a little bit closer comp, a little taller, a little bit better down the field. And, former center fielder. He was a really good baseball player. Treylon Burks was, and you can see him.
Same with A.J. Brown. I believe A.J. Brown was a great baseball player as well.
He tracks the ball so well. Big mitts, goes up and gets it. So more potential down the field. He does not have that Deebo burst, though. He does not. But like I said, this is key again now. You don't just draft one wide receiver because that's a coin flip. Treylon Burks could be a huge bust. So you want to take multiple swings at wide receiver to replace your player. It's the thing we saw the 49ers miss on when they made the trade of DeForest Buckner. So again, another trade. Still have 2 second-round picks left at picks 51 from the Eagles, and the 49ers original 61. So going up again, I went up from pick 61. The 49ers original second rounder gave up a 4th and a 6th to go up about 13 spots to pick 48. I believe that was the Bears selection in round 1 to take wide receiver Christian Watson from North Dakota State and pair him up with his old teammate in Trey Lance. And again, this is what it's all about. 2 high upside players, 2 swings at getting it right at wide receiver. Maybe they're both studs, but you want to try to be as good as you can. Let these guys fight it out. And, you've still got Aiyuk. You've still got Jennings. May the best men win. And they're all different. Utilize them in all different ways. And that's what it's all about. You take 2 high swings and you have all these extra picks. I don't need to be drafting a whole bunch in the 4th, 5th, 6th round at this point. I'm trying for impact. I'm trying to be better post Deebo. And now this is a team that's added 2 stud wide receivers, 2 high upside wide receivers in Treylon Burks and Christian Watson in the first 48 picks, plus an edge rusher in Jermaine Johnson. So that's what Deebo helps you do, is helps you add to the ammunition to attack this draft to make yourself better.
Yeah, and Christian Watson, a guy I really like, and I know 49er fans are really familiar with him. He is a legit 6'4", 210-pound receiver who ran a 4.36 at the combine and jumped out the building with a 38.5-inch vertical leap or whatever it was. It was like 38 inches. So very explosive player. Now, where he can improve, I think he can work on his hands. Like, he is someone that will drop a ball. All right. But again, you got the contested guy, like huge hands. You got all that sure hands with Treylon Burks. But with Christian Watson, I think he can learn to play a little bit faster in route. He has terrific speed. That 4.3 that he ran at the combine was not surprising at all. Everyone knew he ran that because he played that fast, especially when he gets the ball in his hands. He beat guys vertically. I watched at the Senior Bowl week, and I was like, I was waiting to see, okay, is he going to be able to run by these guys like he did at the FCS level? Yes, he did. Was not an issue. And so blazing speed, he has that. But in route, I think he has to learn how to play with high-end controlled speed, run his routes harder to get guys running off, and then sit his routes down. Now, I think he plays strong at the top of routes. I think he can win underneath. There are a lot of things that are really good with him, and he'll definitely bring a different skill set to a 49ers receiver group. But yeah, just certain areas where I'm like, you can use this a little bit more than what you're doing. And once he learns to do that on the underneath routes, it's going to help him even more on the things over the top, where he definitely will outrun defensive backs.
And again, the Niners love drafting those Senior Bowl guys as well. So 2 of those out of 3 picks so far. Pick 51. So this was tough for me when I went up to 48 because there was Watson, and my other targets were Jalen Petrie out of Baylor and Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. And I thought, man, there's 2 safeties I like and 1 receiver that I really like. There's some other receivers potentially, but I'm going to go with Watson and hope that in the 2 picks between 48 and 51 that both safeties don't go. And Petrie went the very next pick, but Brisker did not go. So it was Brisker, my pick for the 49ers, just prototype height, weight, speed. The 49ers love him. The 49ers have gone to watch him at Penn State. They brought him in for a personal visit as well. That is Jaquan Brisker at 51, safety of the 49ers. I would love him at 61, and he might not even get there, though, Croc.
I watched him against Ohio State. Now, I didn't finish it. I was probably about 3/4 in, and I didn't see anything bad yet. There was one missed tackle. On the
wide receiver screen?
Yeah.
You got juice out of his shoes on that one.
Yeah. But aside from that, it was like there wasn't anything notable. I will say that.
There's an Olave touchdown to his.
Okay, see, I didn't get there yet.
Okay, yeah,
I didn't get there yet.
Got behind him on that one. That was not good. But
look, I was watching the all 22 though,
and it was still okay. And this is the best competition you have to go against, right? But anyway, Jaquan Brisker, pretty safe pick for the 49ers, and there you go. So now multiple starting caliber players, and when you look at what we've done so far through 2 rounds with Jermaine Johnson, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, and Jaquan Brisker, that's 3 you're hoping, and maybe 4 starting caliber players that you got by utilizing just pick 61 and Deebo Samuel. That's it. That got you 4 potential starters. That's what I'm trying to do by trading Deebo Samuel. I'm not trying to get one guy, take one swing at this thing. I want multiple bites at the apple when I trade a superstar player like that and a very high upside group. And then I'll put this on the screen so folks can can see it, and we'll wrap it up. In round 3, there's a bucket of offensive linemen I really like for the 49ers. I would be okay with most of them at 61. I would hope that one falls to 93, and there was just one of those guys still available for me in Donovan West, the Arizona State center. 49ers do trust their Arizona State prospects. Then went with Ty Chandler, speedy running back later. Daniel Bellinger, sort of a solid all-around backup tight end in the 5th round. And then Mike Vrabel's kid, just because my favorite guys for Mr. Irrelevant, they were not even in the system to draft for PFF, but we're going to have that later in the week. I've got my guy. Croc, do you have your guy? We're going to have a contest here on Locked On 49ers later this week. We got to predict who the Mr. Irrelevant is going to be. I have my guy. I'm ready to make my pick. Do you have an idea who Mr. Irrelevant could be for the 49ers? And we'll have to do a giveaway. If someone actually gets that, it's going to be tough all the way down at 262. If someone gets that right, we got to send them a little something.
I'll pitch in. Yeah, you just let me know. I don't have a guy just yet, but I'll pick a guy before the draft comes.
So that was my mock draft, Croc. What do you think? Do the 49ers get better if they're able to pull off something like this with Deebo Samuel? It would still hurt to lose Deebo Samuel, but can you see a scenario where the Niners could actually benefit from trading away Deebo?
I think you walk away from this trade feeling a lot better than you did walking away from the DeForest Buckner trade after the fact, right? Like after you traded Buckner and you got Javon Kinlaw, I was just like, I still don't feel good about it. But I think with this one, it's like, man, you lost Deebo, but you turned that into Jermaine Johnson, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson, and Jaquan Brisker. I think you feel good about that.
And look, maybe even the board doesn't fall exactly this way. Let's say maybe you think Christian Watson doesn't fall. Okay, and you go Jalen Petrie instead at 48. And then you still have, or at 51 or whatever, and you still have pick 61. Maybe you trade one of those picks to New York and you go get what's his name, who's available for trade now. They just drafted in the 1st round last year, right? Kadarius Toney. There's your catch and run guy. So there's a lot of different ways you could do this. You got to think outside the box a little bit and do some
catch and run guy. The kid from Tennessee, Velus Jones. I watched Velus Jones. He again,
he's a Shanahan guy. He's a Shanahan guy for sure.
You have to be careful with the whole Deebo thing, with saying this guy's the next Deebo Samuel and things like that, because Deebo Samuel has proven he's unique. He's an 1,800-yard guy in the season. All right, that's special. But if you're talking about someone that just has that type of dynamic ability, I mean, this dude is fast and he is dynamic and he has some nice wiggle to him. He can make guys, he's catching bombs, he catches slants, he works primarily out of the slot. And they didn't do a whole lot with him from the standpoint of like the route tree, but just off of ability. And you look at what he looks like, he's old though. He's 24 years old right now and he turns 25 in May. Yeah, so before he even shows up to training camp, he'll be 25 years old. But if you're just looking for someone, maybe you get a Treylon Burks and then it's like, all right, maybe you miss out on Watson or whoever else, and you're like, okay, late third round or something, there's Velus Jones sitting there, and you want this dynamic guy with the ball in his hands. He is that for sure. And that's me watching all 22, not highlights. And I was just like, whoa, this is different. It's different.
Yeah, and the Niners have a ton of picks too. Draft a 3rd receiver. Velus Jones still there in the 5th, 6th round. He falls too far. You got to take him. There's a ton of other dynamic receivers as well that could be available later on. So that's the point. Multiple wide receivers if you trade away Deebo and improve elsewhere at the same time. But plan A, still keep Deebo. If a team comes calling, it's going to cost you overpay or nothing at all. You got to
overpay or nothing at all.
All right, good stuff, Croc. I'm sure there'll be some more Deebo news. We will cover everything that 49ers.
Oh, real quick, Peacock.
Yeah, what's that?
Your percentage on him getting traded. Let me hear it.
37%.
That he will.
37% Deebo Samuel gets traded this week.
Okay, so you're still optimistic that he'll remain.
I still don't think he will get traded, and I still think that if he doesn't get traded this week, it drops back down again to like less than 10%.
Oh, yeah. I'd say less than 2%.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Croc doing Locked On NFL Draft. I'm doing the Peacock and Williamson NFL show daily here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Stay tuned for all the draft coverage. Go subscribe to the Locked On NFL channel, which, by the way, will be the new home on YouTube of the Peacock and Williamson show, too. And Croc and I will be back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.